And let me turn on this other light. And we'll see about getting things started. This might be an interesting live stream today. I got it in my head this morning to do something a little bit different than I was originally planning, so bear with me a bit. And let's see. There's knob. Okay. Let there be light. There is light. All right. Let me silence my cell phone so I don't get any calls or anything coming in. And we'll turn that back on after the live stream. Okay, so today is Sunday, the 18th of July. And yeah, pardon me while I get something to wet my mouth with. So we're at the 18th of July. I'm happy to say that we're over 2,500 subscribers now. And so we will hopefully continue to make some great videos and more Proxmox content coming. This is getting kind of fun for me, so as long as people are reacting to these, then I'm going to continue down this road. So I'll take that back off for a moment. Okay. Good morning, Catherine. Give people a couple more minutes before we jump into the main event. But my idea today is that we're going to complete the install of a new, well, I got a new used system yesterday, a couple of them. I'm going to get Proxmox installed on this, and get ready to join things in a small cluster, which opens up some high availability options, some options for replication of storage, sending the virtual machines to the different machines to manage resources, and all kinds of fun stuff like that. So this is something that's more used in a enterprise environment, but hey, it's home lab, fun time for me. So if I can learn something new and expand my knowledge base and share that knowledge with other people in the process, then hey, why not? So I need to check one thing here, make sure that I'm, oops. Make sure that I'm doing this the way I want to for this. So let's see. Looking for an option in the host name command, and I'm not finding it. Okay, that's what I wanted. Got local. Okay, that's good. Let me switch back to the broadcast. See if anybody else has joined us yet. Good morning, Tony. Welcome. All right, so we've got a couple people out there, so I'll share my screen now. Let's see. Let's just do it full screen. So I had to do this a little bit different. I was having some issues with my capture box, and so I have this hooked up to my Ubuntu machine, and I'm capturing the new Proxmox machine through that, and then doing screen share between them. So it's kind of a convoluted setup, but it works in a pinch. And all right, so we are setting up this new Proxmox VE machine, and I need to see what I've got for local IP addresses that are not going to conflict. Let's do this as 238. And do that. Got just the one Ethernet adapter in this machine. Let's see. Where's the other mouse? Okay. Other mouse was on the floor. Okay, so we need to come down here. And that, oops, time zone is messed up. Well, let's go back and fix that. All right. Detroit. Should be able to just push through this. 238. That looks much better. Automatically reboot after successful installation. Okay, so this is actually a used machine. It came with Windows 10 Pro that I didn't really want. So bye-bye Windows 10. So let's see. Maybe you could replace the streaming machine for the time being and then do a live video on the repair of the streaming machine. Oh, so it was just my my Mirabox capture card was not working properly with my Mac. It wasn't, for some reason, the video was shifted to the left, so I had about 6 characters that were cut off on the left-hand side of the screen. Doing it the way I'm doing it, it's working fine. But it was just one of those odd things. But that's all right. We'll make it work. So, all right, so that's going to take a minute to install. But by the time we get to the end of this, we might have ourselves a little cluster issue. No, it's actually, well, I guess it's partially software based issue. Since I'm using StreamYard for the stream today, but I tried a couple different ways to capture the video directly on the Mac, which it's worked fine before in OBS. That's primarily where I've used it. So it probably is just a software issue trying to make it work with StreamYard. But that's all right. We'll get around this. Thank you, Tony. Appreciate that. Yeah, 2,500 was something I was looking forward to, and I'm pushing towards that 5,000. So my understanding from reading some material online from YouTube and others, and from watching some videos, you're considered a small channel until you reach what is it? It's either 10,000 or 100,000. But I guess in the grand scheme of things, where you've got channels that have multiple millions of subscribers, I'm going to be a small channel for quite some time to come, I'm afraid. But that's all right. This is still fun, and as long as it remains fun, I'm going to keep on doing it. And yeah, so and it thankfully has picked up a bit. So just to reiterate that I eat my own dog food. I am using a boot device made with Ventoy, which I do have a video on. And I will share that momentarily. Although you both have probably seen it already. But let's see. I'll mute that tab. All right, so we will copy that and dump that into the chat. So I made the USB stick with Ventoy, booted the machine, and it loaded Proxmox VE just fine. And running off a USB 3 SanDisk USB stick really works quite well. So once I've prepped the USB stick on either a Windows or Linux machine, I can plug it into my Mac, and all I have to do is drag the ISO files over to it, and they will show up in the menu the next time I use it to boot a machine, which is pretty slick in my book. I was happy to get away from tools that required me to either use Windows completely or to only put one ISO image on a USB flash drive. So The other nice thing is that I can use it. It'll also let me boot Windows ISOs. So, for instance, this USB drive I've got, I believe it's 128 gigs. So I could load up a couple of Windows ISO images on there if I desired to, and be able to boot that. Now, this is not doing what it's supposed to do. Doesn't look like. So let's try this again and see what we can come up with. So all right, well, the curse of the live demo strikes once again, because that is not booting properly. All right, no harm, no foul. We will go to plan B, which I had in mind if this were the case. So not the end of the world here. All right, so good morning, David. Welcome. You haven't missed much. Okay, so we are, let me take this off screen for a moment and prep my other screen for what I want to do here. And maybe we can make this all happy. All right, so let's see. There we go. Okay, so we may not have a full cluster set up by the time this is over, but we will have two of the machines joined together. So this is something that I have not tried before. Oh, finally the other machine came up. All right, that's all right. So let's bring up the new machine. Let's see. That doesn't like us right now, so maybe it's still doing something in the background. All right, so adding a cluster to this is not terribly difficult. Now, for a true cluster, they suggest, of course, having an odd number of machines. And so my goal was to end up with a minimum of 3 today. And so under the data center option here, close permissions up, there is an option for cluster. And so we're going to say create cluster. And we're going to say HomeLab PVE. And 150 is the IP address of the machine that we're currently on. And we're going to say create. And with a little luck, this will do its thing and we can move on to the next step. So good question, Catherine. I was wondering that myself, if David is going to live stream tonight. Okay. So task okay. I suppose I should make this a little bit larger. Oops. Okay, task okay for that. So now we've got a cluster listed here. This is the cluster node. And we need to go to join information. And we're going to copy this information. And then we're going to go to the second machine. And again, we'll go to data center, cluster, join cluster, and then we paste in the machine information and the password for the cluster. And it says on the button, join HomeLab-PVE, which is the name I gave to the cluster. No. Okay. Detected the following errors. This host already contains virtual guests. Task error. Check if node may join a cluster failed. Okay. So that's something that I did not come across, is the idea that you are not supposed to have virtual machines on the cluster, on the nodes already. So let's go ahead. I'm guessing that it's just a conflict because this VM 101 exists on the other, on the original node to begin with. So we'll remove that. And we'll try this again. Cluster, join cluster, peer address, the original node. And I think that did it. Join request okay, finishing setup locally. So once that completes, we jump back to the original node, and I can now manage both of these from one interface. So that's pretty slick. Let's see if 238 wants to play nice now. And here we go again. So root. And we this is a brand new node, so I've not taken off the nag yet. So just to see what we've got to work with here, there are no ISOs on this. And we look at data center summary. You can see what's going on here. This is just an i5. It's nothing special. My original node is a 2-processor Xeon system. So, yeah, little outmatched or mismatched cluster here, but we'll go ahead and add this. Join cluster, paste in our information. The peer is that. Password and join the cluster and come back to the first machine and PVE3 is still in the process of joining, but we actually have now a 3-node cluster. And so, yeah, this is going to allow me to do some additional videos migrating VMs from one machine to the other, one of the others. There's also options for replication. So if I create a VM on one machine, it will, at a specified interval, copy that VM to the other 2 machines. So if one node in the cluster fails, I can start up the virtual machine on one of the other machines. So this is going to change things a little bit. Definitely going to make things a little bit more interesting. So let's see. Need to catch up on chat now. Still on the every other Sunday, even though I missed one. Stuff going on with the day job. That's fair. Also have to come up with a good topic. I was out of town most of last week, so I lost prep time. All right. That's fair. That's fair. So this is sort of the stage that I wanted to get things to today, is have all 3 nodes joined to the cluster. At this point, I don't really need to have the other machines logged in directly. Because I can control them all from one interface, which is splendid. Do you want to check the new one and see if there are any updates worth mentioning? And for some reason, the task failed. I'll have to troubleshoot that later. Got a suspicion since I grabbed the ISO image this morning that, oh, there are updates. Well, I guess we'll let that run. So this is going to open up to doing some videos on live migration between the nodes. This is going to open up some new topics related to Proxmox to really kick off some more videos and hopefully, like I mentioned in the last one, create a small army of Proxmox VE enthusiasts out there and you know, just get people knowing more about it. Let's see. Barry, welcome. How do you share the same hard drive with 2 VMs, like a shared folder, similar to Samba or SSHFS? Is there a way to do that? Same hard drive. With 2 VMs. So are you talking, Barry, are you talking like having 2 partitions on a physical hard drive and using half for one VM and half for the other VM? Or are you using, let's see, like a shared folder? You could do it a number of ways. I normally, when I need to share hard drive space to a VM, I use a NAS. So yeah, I have a couple of NAS boxes on my network, and I will normally just map to the shared resources on the NAS if I need to access something from a VM. That generally makes things easier than most of the other ways I've looked at. And it also allows me to have a little more control over some things. So that's normally the way I go about it. There might be somebody in the chat that has an alternative way to do it. Most of my VMs, though, are relatively independent in that they do one thing and they don't necessarily share resources with other VMs. So I'm not sure if that completely answers your question. But excuse me. That's normally the way I approach things. I will usually share things on a NAS and just keep the data separated from the VMs a little bit. All right. So something else that a cluster like this opens up is the use of Ceph. And I have not researched this extensively. But I will say that the documentation from the Proxmox people is really quite good. And a lot of what I do, I follow along with their documentation, at least the first time through, and then I see where I can streamline things at all. So so for a media server, I would, in all honesty, I would typically run a media server on its own dedicated box with as good a graphics card as I could put my fingers on in it, so I could do transcoding on the same box. But usually media servers like Plex will allow you to use external storage like a NAS on the network. You could Yeah, really, you're looking at situations that require some sort of a NAS or some other way, either using Samba or NFS. I don't have a lot of experience with SSHFS, but that's an option I've seen people use as well. But yeah, I think you're on the right track with sort of the NAS idea. I don't currently have a media server on my network, so that's something I would have to play with myself to see how I would want to set that up. I've got one machine that I'm contemplating at least temporarily turning into a Plex server, but we'll see how things go, and at some point before the end of the summer, I might need a break from doing Proxmox videos, so that might be a fun diversion to get another topic on the channel. Let's see. Last time I tried to share drives with VirtualBox, it led to problems with both VMs. Yeah. I have seen where people have tried to share things and they have run into problems. Yeah, that's why I'm still leaning more towards a NAS type of environment. And really, if you could get a 2.5 gig or faster switch and some network cards that did multi-gig, the best case scenario would be putting those on a separate switch or a separate VLAN going to that separate switch, and you know, making the transfers between the VMs and the storage as fast as possible, given your budget constraints that may or may not exist. Yeah, I've seen a lot of people go the NAS route for that, and that's I tend to use network attached storage for a lot of things. In fact, at one point, I even had my Synology box integrated into Proxmox as a storage location for virtual machines and ISO images. So that's the NAS was something I invested in early on. Originally building a NAS, and then I've bought a few over the years, and then I've repurposed some PCs for NAS boxing, in part to try out some ideas. Where the machine is not necessarily practical as a full-time NAS, but to test out new versions of something like Open Media Vault 6, which is out in beta, it makes it kind of fun to play with. I have tried out the turnkey containers. I think I've got those on PVE, local container templates. So yeah, all of these are, except for the Alpine and CentOS, they're all turnkey containers. And I've played with most of these at one point or another. I've not played with ZoneMinder yet. And I've not played with the help desk up here yet. Invoice Ninja. I've used Suite CRM. I've done some initial testing with. WordPress I use quite a bit. Yeah, and actually I've got a container running. I think this started as a turnkey Linux, just the base container, and installed Unbound on it for some DNS experiments. I think I've done a video or two on that. Let me double check here. Let's see. Let's see. Have I? Aha. So here is my example video I did last summer on, I did a whole series on Proxmox VE starting about June of 2020. And the video I just pasted into chat is the video where I did downloading the container image and then installing it as a container. So hopefully that gets you started. That's how I got my Sigma NAS working, accessing from other VMs and my normal PCs. Yep. You just came up with a great video idea, Jeremy, setting up Proxmox to use Synology as storage. Yes, that's one that I've not done a video on it. I've set it up, and I should, especially now that I've got this cluster situation going, that's something I should revisit. I'm going to write that down right now. So I've started outlining a new Proxmox VE series now that a couple things have happened. One, I've got the cluster set up, and two, all the nodes on the cluster are running Proxmox VE7. So the video series from last summer is on Proxmox VE. I think it was 6.3 at the time that came out. And I've done a few things with 6.4, and now 7.0 is out, and I was pretty early to jump the gun on jumping on the 7.0 bandwagon. I have not had any real issues up to this point, so knock on wood. But my idea is to do some videos on, a complete setup, Proxmox VE installation, going through storage, going through setting up users, which is something that I haven't done and I should. And then, doing the cluster, doing, potentially doing Ceph file system between them. Yeah, so let's see. Under Ceph, it says Proxmox VE unifies your compute and storage systems. You can use the same physical nodes within a cluster for both computing and replicated storage. Again, this would be something that would be better on multi-gigabyte LAN of some variety, whether it's a separate switch for the VMs or a separate VLAN if you've already got 2.5, 5, or 10 gig infrastructure installed. So Ceph is a distributed object store and file system designed to provide excellent performance, reliability, and scalability. So easy management, thin provisioning, snapshot support, self-healing, pools with different performance and redundancy characteristics. No need for hardware RAID controllers. It's open source. And yeah. Precondition: to build a hyperconverged Proxmox plus Ceph cluster, you must use at least 3, preferably identical, which is one place I'm lacking, preferably identical servers for the setup. So I may still try this regardless of the idea of my machines not being identical. But it should be an interesting experiment. And I'm just going to have to get them all in the same physical location and see if I can't do a separate VLAN for the Proxmox machines just to make performance as good as it can be, because I'm only running a 1 gig network. So I may try that. I may crash and burn when trying it, but right now I don't have any virtual machines that are so important that I couldn't lose them. But yeah, so I guess that's my long-winded answer to your suggestion of a topic, Tony. I think that's a great one that I definitely want to investigate a little further. Let's see, talking about AMD coolers, Wraith Prism and Wraith Max. Yeah, I'm not up on AMD coolers at the moment, but I know they look nice. Beyond that, I can't tell you much about their characteristics. So what do we have as far as questions? Is there a demo I can do on Proxmox that would be fairly quick to show? The cluster is pretty new to me. Like I said, this was my first run through setting it up, so you know, it's going to be kind of interesting. But it seems like I can still just come in here and create a new VM. The problem is going to be I don't have any ISOs stored on this machine. So that's not going to be the best demo at the moment. However, I don't know. Click on Pop OS. They've released a new version, so we're going to copy the link. I'm going to go back to Proxmox. We'll go to the new node, Proxmox VE3, to local. We're going to download from URL, paste in our URL, query it. It gets the file name, and we'll just wrong file extension. I don't know how that can be. It's an ISO file. All right, that's a new error that I have not seen before. See if we can replicate it. I know this is a new feature. Wrong file extension. So it doesn't like something in the file name. So let's go to, I don't know. Let's do mint. Download. Let's do mate. And let's pick on Harvard School of Engineering. We'll copy the link from there. And let's go back to number 3. Query the URL. 2 gig download. Wrong file extension. That's a new error message. I've downloaded other ISO images using this with no issues. That is very interesting. Harvard School of Engineering, that does not give a checksum. Release notes. They have some checksums in here somewhere. Nope. Well, that's quite a conundrum. Let's see. Dun, dun, dun. Know any server failover options or redundancy examples. Say my server goes down on one VM, I could have it auto switch to another. So, Barry, that's one of the things that I'm going to be working on, is doing some examples of that. I know there are other creators out there on YouTube that have done things with that specifically. Let's see. Jeff from Craft Computing looks like he's got one that might fit what you're wanting. I do not have any videos on this yet, but Jeff does a nice job with his videos, and so that's where I would send you at the moment. But I don't have any examples yet. That is kind of my desire to go down that route with building this cluster and just get this information in front of more people. So I hope that video from Craft Computing can give you some information that you're looking for and go from there. But please keep coming back. I will have more Proxmox stuff coming out. I think Proxmox is going to hopefully build up as one of my primary topics as I go forward, since Fog is sort of on life support at the moment. Excuse me. So as most of my regulars know, a lot of my initial traffic on my channel came from covering Fog Project. After I used it for a project in my former job, and I think we cloned or deployed. I can't talk this morning. We deployed a Windows image to more than 200 computers using Fog, and the estimate at the time was I saved the company about $10,000 versus outsourcing it to be done. But of course, you know, I never saw any of that money. But it was when I was teaching, and it gave my students some real world hands-on experience doing imaging. So that was the real goal with that. And the byproduct was that I made a video, the first of my Fog videos, and put it on YouTube, and it just kind of took off. And the funny thing about it is that at the time, and this has been, close to 4 years ago, maybe a little over 4 years. So this was, I think this was like 2017. At the time, I had searched YouTube for a video on the newest version of Fog, and the most recent version at that time, the release of Fog was 1.3.4, and the newest video was 1.2.0. And so I took a stab in the dark and made the video, threw it up on YouTube. It wasn't a great video from the production quality, but it was well received, let's just say. So unfortunately, Fog is more or less on life support at the moment. The main developer, has other issues going on in his life that precludes him from spending the time on Fog that he would like. All right. So hopefully Proxmox will be the replacement topic for Fog, and I can keep this roll going with the information rolling out. Yeah, Tom Lawrence. I'm not sure if Tom has directly done Proxmox videos. Tom is more in the Esxi PNG camp, but he does a lot of videos with Jay LaCroix from Learn Linux TV. Let's see. I'm wondering if Jay's got a video. Let's see. So Jay has an entire playlist on Proxmox. Not sure how old these are at the moment, but that would be another resource. So I gotta give props to my Michigan YouTube creators when I can. So both Tom and Jay are from Michigan. Tom's in the Detroit area. I think Jay is closer to Flint or Saginaw, but both from Michigan. So shout out to Lawrence Technologies and Learn Linux TV. So I have consumed a lot of their material over the years. So they are both very knowledgeable, and they are in a place that I aspire to be. So both knowledge wise and subscriber wise. So, and Jay has published. I've actually got his book here on my shelf. I'll turn my camera back on. Jay published Mastering Ubuntu Server. This is the 3rd edition. Jay LaCroix. So good resource there if you're using Ubuntu Server for anything. Gives you some more of the inner workings of things and background details, and walks you through some scenarios that are useful. So, all right. Let's see. Any other questions, comments? We're at 1 hour. I'm going to try to wrap this at about 90 minutes, so about another 27 minutes from now. I'm very happy that I got this cluster to work, even though this download from URL feature is not functioning properly at the moment, which I'm not entirely sure why. So the ISO I know I did with it before. Put my screen back up. ISO I know that I had working before with this is Ubuntu Server. I downloaded this on at least one of my machines. Let's see. We're going to cancel that. And we're going to copy the link. And we'll try this. Download from URL. Verify. And then copy the checksum. And it says that this is SHA-256. So we will select SHA-256 and paste in the checksum. And again, it's saying wrong file extension. So that's a bug. That, my friends, is a bug. Let's try it here. And maybe I'm missing something on the other 2 servers. I don't think so, but never hurts to try to, try to replicate this. Copy link. Yep, wrong file extension. It did the same thing on all 3 servers in the cluster. So was like, maybe I was in the wrong spot. Maybe it's user error. I'm not immune to that completely. Not completely. There we go. Okay, so user error. My bad. All right, take care, Tony. Appreciate you stopping in. Okay, so this is saying that I've already downloaded it here. So it must be when I went to... Let's try this again. ISO images, download from URL. Oops. SHA-256. Copy link. All right, it's working now. My bad. Oh, well. Anyways, make sure you're on the ISO images tab on that screen and not the container templates tab, and you'll save yourself frustration. The nice thing is that this is a brand new feature in version 7, and it takes the some extra steps out of the process of getting an ISO on your Proxmox server. You used to have to download it on your whatever computer you're using, and then upload it to Proxmox, and then you do checking of the checksum from the command line on Proxmox, or you do it before you uploaded it. So this streamlines the process and lets you do that all in one spot. So, yeah, you've got a point, Barry. It's unforgiving. It's cryptic at times. I will say that their error messages could be a little more descriptive from the Proxmox team, but it's excuse me. I'll blame it on the live demo thing. Things that I do repeatedly on my own when I'm not recording tend to bite me in the hind end when I'm doing something live for people. But that's all right. Most of my viewers can relate, and I've actually got compliments before on not cutting out some of the troubleshooting steps that I've gone through to resolve an issue. Yeah. So we'll try out this new ISO that we just downloaded and on the brand new node. And select the only ISO we've got. Default. We'll give it 2 cores, and we'll give it 4 gigs of RAM. And network is fine. Start after creation. And then we'll just watch this, and it should pop up here in a moment. maybe. So you are right on the money, Barry. I've been doing this for a number of years, and there are days that I still bang my head against the wall, and it's nice to know I've got company in doing that. I'm glad I'm not the only one. So let's see. Well, that's interesting. Doesn't look like it's creating my VM. All right, I'm going to give that a minute. Why don't we look at the data center tab? Does show the cluster here. We're into the cluster subsection. Number of nodes is 3. Summary. Running is 1 container. And that is showing 16 CPUs. And combined 38.8 gigs of RAM and 1.48 terabytes. Got a suspicion 16 CPUs. That's interesting. I'm not sure how it's obtaining all that information. PVE3 and PVE demo are both quad core. PVE is actually okay. Yep. So it's combining the CPUs. That's 8 CPUs. PVE3 is 4 CPUs, and PVE demo is 4 CPUs. So I've got one other machine that I could add to the cluster. I've got one additional machine I could potentially add to the cluster, so I could bring the number up to 5. Both of those other machines are quad core. Different processors. I think one of them, I know one of them's an i5. I think the other one's a Xeon, because that's more of a workstation machine that I picked up for a little bit of nothing about 2 years ago. But yeah, this is kind of neat that it combines the CPU, memory, and storage of all the systems into one summary dashboard. Again, I will be playing with some of these other options, and maybe I'll make a video going through each of the data center options now that I've got the cluster. But the other thing that I'm looking at doing with the with Proxmox is they also just released the 2.0 version of their backup server, their dedicated backup server. So I am looking at possibly taking one of my machines and making it a backup server, testing that out, doing some videos on that, and see how that's received, because I don't believe I've seen any videos yet on backup server 2.0. So let's see. Barry, something about Linux and particularly Proxmox. No matter how difficult it can be, sometimes it can be addicting. The reward of figuring it out is worth it. Yes, you're absolutely correct. I've been using Linux in various forms since 1997 or 98. I think it was probably 98, but so you're talking 23 years, and the evolution has been amazing, and it always leaves me wanting more. From the time that I had, the first computer I bought with my own money, I always wanted to know more. I wanted to always add more software, and we're talking the floppy disk days at that point, and ordering stuff mail order because it was a home computer and not a clone PC, for example. But yeah, it's been true with Tandy Color Computer, both with RS-DOS and OS9. When I had my Amigas up and running, I always wanted to know more there, and then moving to Linux. Now, all those systems I was self-taught. Windows I use to mainly make money. I solve other people's problems with Windows, and that's why I don't find any joy in making videos on Windows, because I like to keep the fun in making the videos, and so I've drawn this line between the Linux stuff and the Windows stuff. So okay. Oh, you will be going to Vid Summit 2021. I looked at the pricing on that, and going to California is out of my budget right now. I am very much contemplating taking a couple days off from work and attending the online version. My financial advisor will hate me, but I will probably put the ticket on a credit card and just do that, because I think there's going to be enough good information there to justify the price and to help propel my channel to the next level, hopefully. FiberNet Broadband, welcome. If I remember from looking at your profile, I think you're in India. What time is it in India right now? Oh, USB Tux, welcome. Glad to have you back. Excuse me. All right. 9:49 p.m. Wow. Well, I guess this is the live stream to catch, if you're going to catch one of mine, because when I do live streams on Thursday nights, it's at 9 p.m. Eastern time in the U.S. So, yeah. Hopefully you're sleeping while I'm doing that live stream, but 5:20 UK time. All right. Let's see. My day job will be paying us retroactively our 2020 salary increase. Next month, our 2021 increase. Very nice. Very nice. I know at the library we did get a small increase last year. We're getting a bigger increase this year, which I'm happy about. So let's see. My wife wants new carpet in the living room, and I get to go to the conference. Okay, that's fair. Are you taking her with you to California to visit her relatives? I think that's you'd mentioned something about when we talked about this before. That might give you an extra bedroom to stay in or something. I don't know. I sleep around 12 midnight. All right. Good to know. So all right. Other questions, comments, topic suggestions? I'm very happy overall with the way this has gone today. Had a few hiccups at the beginning, but that's all right. I'm happy to have successfully created this 3-node cluster of Proxmox servers, even though only one of them is technically a server class machine. They're all capable of running VMs, and that's what I was looking to do with this. I will be thinking about how I'm going to lay out some additional videos and consult the documentation and see what I can do, since not all the machines are exactly the same. I know that could create some issues going forward depending on what I have to do. But yeah, this should be a fun project. I'm also going to see about getting Let's Encrypt certificate installed on for the cluster. See how that goes. I did buy a domain from a registrar called Pork Bun. I don't know if they've got a I don't know if they've got an affiliate program. Or not, but I bought a domain with the sole purpose of using it for home lab stuff. So so I've got homelab.fun as my domain that I'll be using for my home lab stuff. So home labbing is fun, and so why not? And the domain cost me less than $2 for the first year, so that was a bonus there. But yeah, I'm not sure that they've got a referral program of any sort, but they it was either pork bun or Namecheap, and I had somebody recommended pork bun to me at one time. And so I thought, well, I'll take a chance. One of the things I've been trying to do is get away from registering domains with the same company that I buy my hosting from. So I don't want to get into a situation where my domains are being held hostage in any way, and this gives me a little bit more control. But yeah, we'll see what we can do with these with this Proxmox cluster, and try to make some videos, and hopefully this will answer people's questions in the process, allow me to have some fun with things, and see where it might lead us. All right. Let's see. Well, David, at least you get out of having to put the carpet down yourself. Let's see. You want to take her, but she's still afraid of COVID. Yeah, I guess I don't blame her, especially if you're taking a plane out to California, being in an enclosed space. And with that new variant that's floating around. Let's see. Apart from paid, what's good and bad about Esxi versus Proxmox? Please elaborate. So, Proxmox, by virtue of being based on Debian Linux, or built on top of Debian Linux, I suppose I should say, will run on more commodity hardware. So you could repurpose a PC and run Proxmox on it. Esxi is a little more picky. Generally speaking, it prefers hardware that is built to be used as a server. So either workstation or server motherboards. Esxi likes the ECC RAM. Again, Proxmox is not as picky. They can both do replication of VMs between nodes if you have more than one server in a cluster. There are a lot more people using Esxi, at least in the US. I cannot speak for Europe. Proxmox is built by a company that is based out of Spain, I believe. So they may have... I'm wrong. They're based out of Austria. So they may have more customers in the European Union than in the US. Were it not for just my own curiosity searching all things Linux over the years, I probably wouldn't have not found Proxmox. They do both offer paid support subscriptions. So for Proxmox VE, and of course they list this in euros, but if you're starting off just for a basic subscription, the community edition is 90 euros per year per CPU socket. If you're running single socket servers, then 280 euros a year is going to be somewhere over, I don't know, 320 ish US dollars a year. So if we look at 280 euros, $330.55 according to the exchange rate. VMware when I looked at this before, and it's been a number of years, so I'm not sure exactly what has changed. They still have a lot of stuff that is very proprietary, very expensive to add features. Out of my price range for what I want to do for home lab stuff. Also, once upon a time, VMware got themselves in a little bit of trouble for not properly attributing the some of the underlying tools of ESXi to the GNU public license and all that kind of thing. Now, the big question that I have that I don't remember the answer to, and I haven't, it's been long enough since I've used ESXi. At one point, you could only get a trial version of vSphere to control your ESXi servers. I don't know if that's changed. But I like that Proxmox has, a web interface built in. It also has a pretty robust system that you can use from the command line. And it's got API level access if you are interested in doing some custom work or using things like Ansible or other tools with Proxmox. So yeah, that's sort of where I see things. I'm sure if you talk to somebody that has more recently worked with ESXi, they might paint a different picture. However, when I evaluated ESXi years ago, there were issues based on especially the pricing for any sort of support contract that put it well outside my budget for home use or classroom use at the time, which is what I was trying to use it for. Whereas Proxmox having a free edition didn't have those issues. So again, this is one of those your mileage may vary type situations. I believe both of them are capable of doing GPU pass-through. So if you wanted to run a Windows VM on Proxmox or on ESXi, you could have a GPU on the server and be able to use that in your VM. Yeah, I mean, the biggest underlying difference is that Proxmox is open source and built on open source technologies, and ESXi is, although they do have a free version, it's still a proprietary product. And, over the last 23 years, I have got away from using as many proprietary products as possible. I still have a couple Macs. I still have one Windows machine. But most of my equipment is Linux based. So I guess that's my 2 cents worth, and take it for that value. I guess the big thing would come down to if you're looking to use a virtualization server product, a hypervisor product in a work environment, or you're looking to change jobs, then go for the product that you are trying to become proficient in, that might gain you the skills to move into that next job, or to increase your knowledge base for a current job. Management in a lot of places look for software by name. They don't look at categories. They don't understand that for a lot of tech people, it's pretty easy to move from one product to another in the same category. So for instance, once you understand how to create a VM in one virtualization product, it's not terribly difficult to figure out in the next one. And become proficient in, the next one. Over the years, I've used VMware Workstation. I've used VMware Workstation Player. I've used VirtualBox. I've used Parallels for desktop type 2 hypervisor type virtualization environments, and for type 1 hypervisors, so server level hypervisors, I've used ESXi. I've used Zen Server before they started their shenanigans on making things more proprietary and removing features from the free versions. Then I used Esxi, which was a fork of Zen Server. And I didn't stay on Esxi very long before I bounced back over to Proxmox because I liked the integration with having the web interface built in, whereas with Esxi you had to add Zen Orchestra, and to avoid having to pay for that, you had to compile it yourself and install it, and it was just more work to maintain it. And so, I had used Proxmox prior to that, and I came back to Proxmox when I got frustrated with it. So it's not to say it's a bad product. If you've got a budget for it, then by all means, it's worth checking out. Now, at the same time, something else I'll throw out there that's going to be worth looking at in the future is TrueNAS Scale. So, as a lot of people know, TrueNAS traditionally has been built on FreeBSD, which is another Unix variant not related directly to Linux. Uses a different kernel, has different, a slightly different user space. A lot of the commands and utilities are the same across them, but there are differences. So with TrueNAS Scale, they are building on top of a Linux base, and where the scale part comes into play is it's going to be a network attached storage as well as a virtualization environment similar to Proxmox. So that could make things very interesting going forward, because it will, simplify for a lot of people some of this setup process. So I hope that in some way answers your question about ESXi versus Proxmox, and then a couple of additional products just for good measure. So TrueNAS Scale is still in beta at the moment. But this should be coming out at some point, hopefully yet this year. TrueNAS Scale is in beta, only recommended for early adopters with a backup plan. Built on TrueNAS Core, Scale adds Linux containers, which Proxmox uses, KVM, which Proxmox uses, and scale out ZFS storage capabilities. So you're getting the NAS pieces from TrueNAS Core, and then you're basically adding Proxmox into the mix as well, or Proxmox style environment. So would you like to do a live VM of the OVA we talked about? Yes, if you can point me to where I can get that OVA, if it's something that's not proprietary to your business or employer in some way, I wouldn't mind taking a look at that and seeing if I can get it to run on Proxmox. I think that would be an interesting scenario to look at. And yeah. So if you can give me the details either here or I think, like I said in one of my comments to you, if you want to go to the About tab on my channel, then you can email me. And okay, sending you an email with the file. Great. So take this off for a moment, and we'll jump back to my other window so I can open email. Let's see what we can do here. So maybe that'll make a good topic for next week. For the Sunday live stream, I can go through it this week myself, and then again, if it's not something proprietary to you, then I can show it live in the live stream next week. So because at the very most, I only want to go another 15 minutes or so in the live stream today. I try to cap these at 2 hours for the very long ones. And I'm hoping that the auto timestamp feature kicks in on some of these live streams. That's a new piece that they've rolled out at YouTube. So for some of the long videos that I have not put timestamps on, which includes a lot of my early videos, they will be starting to auto add timestamps. So that will be nice, and hopefully lead to people being able to find more of these live streams and get some value out of them. When these run 2 hours a pop, it's a lot more time consuming to go back through and build timestamps for them after the fact. And so outside of the people that view these live on Sundays, most of them don't get a lot of views after the fact, which is all right, because what I've found is that the live streams tend to be more for the people that are already subscribed, whereas the pre-recorded videos tend to have a good split between subscribers and non-subscribed people. So hopefully that will kick in with this with today's video, and we can get some things going there. So one of the videos I am wanting to make in the fairly near future, I found this article on the config server firewall. And this is a little tutorial that walks through it on a Debian-based system. They might be using Ubuntu. Yes, they're using Ubuntu 20.04, which ships with the uncomplicated firewall, which is pretty basic. But there are a number of firewall options on Linux, and this is one of them. So this is something I'm kind of wanting to check out. It looks pretty interesting. It is command line config, so it's not for everybody. But it's definitely more advanced than what people are getting on, say, a Windows 10 box by default, which I think is what the uncomplicated firewall was trying to achieve, is putting a wrapper on it that would on IP tables that would make it basically mimic the functionality, the basic functionality of the Windows firewall, so that converts could set up a firewall in Linux fairly easily. So this is something that I've been looking at a little bit and will likely be making a video on at some point in the future. So yeah, I think this is a good spot to stop. So we've gone an hour and 50, almost 52 minutes. So let me jump back over to email and see if that came through. Let's see. Okay. I've got that. And yeah, I will take a look at that this week. And see what I can do with that. And then we can talk about that on the Sunday live stream next week and see where that goes. That looks like it's a fairly small file. Oh yeah, that's not very big at all. So I should be able to take a look at that on my own probably this afternoon or in the next couple of days. And I will likely make that the topic for next Sunday's live stream. And we can see what I can do to make this all work. So all right. So I'm going to save that file and see what we can do with it. So, all right. Well, on that note, I want to thank all of you for coming out today. This was fun, and we got to look at a cluster in Proxmox VE, the initial setup of that cluster. Tail end of a brand new install of Proxmox VE. Granted, this machine I installed it on today only had a single disk. I will likely be adding some additional storage to my second and third node in the cluster at some point in time. But this was the bare minimum to get things up and going. Now, keep in mind that if you want to play with a cluster in Proxmox, you can get your hands on used Dell Optiplex machines with either an i5 or an i7. I've been picking up a few of the 7010 models. And, depending on what your budget is, you could go closer to a 7040 or 7050. And, they are good machines to learn Proxmox on. They're not going to have the largest amounts of storage in it. They're not going to have the largest amounts of RAM in them. But if you can get, say, a minimum of 16 gigs of RAM and a 500 gig to 1 terabyte hard drive in them, or preferably solid state drive, you're going to be good to go on doing some Proxmox stuff and have a dedicated server or even a cluster for learning Proxmox. Now, much like a lot of other people, I did start off with a single machine running Proxmox for the last, I don't know, almost a year. I've had 2 separate machines running Proxmox, knowing that you can't really have a cluster until you hit 3, or not a high availability type cluster until you hit 3 nodes. And they suggest odd numbers of nodes for that. So yeah, you do this a little bit at a time as the budget allows, and we can all learn together as we go. And again, if people want to get in contact with me, hit that About tab on my channel page and grab my email there, and feel free to shoot me an email if you have questions, problems, suggestions for topics, or have something you want me to take a look at. I'll see what I can do. So on that note, thanks again, everybody. Stay safe out there. We do still have this plague going on, and happy computing. Have a great day. Enjoy your week, and I will see you. I'll actually be back live Thursday night at 9 p.m. Eastern, and then again on Sunday. So I will see you throughout the week. Have a good time, everybody. Stay safe.